Welcome in, family. Welcome in. Welcome in. Hey, welcome to the Marshall Experience. Tonight we are focusing solely on fantasy football, and probably one of the most important things about fantasy football, and that is what to do when you have the number one overall pick. Before we get into everything, we'll go over our sponsors and who we're powered by. We're obviously powered by the Sports Lounge Media. Great things happening over there, guys. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on any really platform that there is out there: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Check us out. We're going to be doing some big things, and trust me, you're going to want to be a part of that journey. So and that's who we're powered by, and we're sponsored by the Mogul brand as well, and we appreciate them. And again, guys, so tonight we're solely focused on fantasy football. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about, the sole mainly thing that we're going to be talking about, is what do we do with the number one overall pick, right? What do we do? So we're going to get right into it here. Like I said, having the number one overall pick is not necessarily always a good thing. It's just not. Making the wrong pick at 1.01, which is what we call it, can really destroy your fantasy football season before it even gets started. Okay. Last year, for example, Christian McCaffrey went a lot of number one picks last year. Okay. That did not pan out very well. He was injured for most of it. And so when you solely draft a player at the first overall pick, you are putting your overall efforts, your overall thoughts, and you're putting your doubts aside, and you are solely focused on this player carrying you to a championship. Okay. So these are players like Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson. So like I said, having this pick, guys, is not always the best thing. Okay. And trust me, that's coming from experience. When you make the wrong pick, and it's not always your fault. So last year with CMC, right? CMC is talented enough to be a top pick. Now, can we predict? Can we see the injuries happen? Can we predict what was going to transpire? Absolutely not. But that is where you put all your eggs in one basket, and you got nothing for it because of the injury process, right? Or the dud of a season, or however it may turn out. But sometimes it does turn out. Okay. We're going to go over about, I think I wrote down 4 players that I would put consensusly at the number one overall pick. And we're going to talk about these guys. We're going to give our reasoning behind it. And hopefully this will help you out, guys. So those 4 names that I just named, right? Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson. Okay, those would be probably my 4 top players to be the number one overall pick. Okay, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. Again, we're going to go over each of these players and just kind of go down the list and basically give reasonings why this player would support a number one overall pick, guys. Just Jamar Chase. We're going to start off first, Jamar Chase. For this is just simply preferring, it's as simple as, do you prefer to draft a running back at the top of the draft or a wide receiver? It's just really preferable at this point. But regardless of the fact, Jamar Chase does warrant your attention. Okay. Take it from somebody that last year, I went to the championship and got absolutely demolished by Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Absolutely dog walked. And I still have a team. But that duo, that connection, won championships last year. 100%. In 2024, Chase led all wide receivers in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. That's a triple crown, guys. Along with 2 more scoring full PPR games next to the nearest contender, which was Justin Jefferson. Okay. So this guy is producing. producing. There's not a week that Jamar Chase shouldn't be putting up solid numbers. It's just not. There used to be a thought process that Chase only blew up when T. Higgins was injured. This has been a thing, guys. This has been a thing for the last few years. I've had this conversation a couple times. But last year, Chase actually scored more points when Higgins was healthy at a rate of 24.6 to 21.3. So when Higgins is in there and he's taking some of the load off, Chase is performing better. We got to think about it that way. It's not, oh, well, if Higgins is hurt, Chase is getting more volume. Yes, you are correct. But at that point, he's viable for double teams because he's the only option. Only good option, I should say. But with Higgins in there and he takes some of that load off, he takes some of that high safety effort off, Ja'Marr Chase is able to get those one-on-one matchups, right? Chase has recorded over 100 receptions in back-to-back years and has gone over 1,200 yards in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Guys, Ja'Marr Chase is really as reliable as they come. It is what it is. Again, he's the main reason I lost last year in the championship. I will never forget that. Next guy we're going to talk about, near and dear to my heart, Saquon Barkley. Okay. Obviously coming off an unbelievable season, Saquon Barkley might be very well the easiest click. Okay. When I say that, think about when you're doing your online, you do it online, or you do it through ESPN or Yahoo, click a button, right? When you do it at home and you do it with your family, there are draft kits, draft boards, the whole thing. But when I say the easiest click, I kind of mean the online version, right? I think Barkley really overcame the lack of goal line touches because of the Eagles' tush push. But he simply had 330 more yards than the next nearest running back. It's kind of hard to argue with, right? He also notched 15 touchdowns and a top 5 fantasy back in 7 out of the 18 weeks. Well, out of the 17 weeks because of a bye week. That's pretty good numbers. The doubts about Barkley's role in the receiving game turned out to be fair. But with him recording a career-low 33 receptions, it simply didn't matter because of Barkley's efficiency in the running game. He did have over 400 touches. They're going over this whole curse thing to where you get 400 touches and the next year you don't do well. Okay, well, how many curses can we really talk about, right? We got the Madden curse. We got that. We got he's injury prone. We got it's always something new. Is what my point is. Okay, the history of running backs, again, seeing that much volume tends to not be kind to them going into the next season. The last time a running back repeated as the running back one was back-to-back years was Priest Holmes in 2003. So really, the odds are against Saquon to really repeat at RB1. Do I think that he's RB1? It's hard to say. It was hard to say last year because I didn't know what his role in the offense was going to be. However, now that I know that his role in the offense, it's still hard to say because you have Bijan, you have Gibbs, you have Derrick Henry, you have CMC if he stays healthy. You have all these running backs that can still compete for that running back one position, right? Next person we're going to talk about, Justin Jefferson. Down south said 2 years ago, he drafted Justin Jefferson in the first round and has set him up right. This is one of those players that will do that. Okay. But unlike Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson has had to deal with a healthy or perhaps unhealthy amount of quarterback turnover in his time in Minnesota, right? Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, now JJ. Ja'Marr Chase has had Joe Burrow, right? I mean, that's an argument. But that hasn't stopped Justin Jefferson from really producing. averaging 97 yards per game throughout his career with no year below 88. Okay? Consistency. Remember that Cuddy system. That Cuddy system that we had talked about in the beginning. If you need a refresher, go back and watch it. That Cuddy system, consistency, that C, right? That C. For reference, only 5 players averaged that mark in 2024. One of them was Justin Jefferson. So again, consistency, guys. The last time that Justin Jefferson was a wide receiver 1 was 2022. Okay, he's been a mainstay in the top 5 of wide receivers since 21, though. That kind of consistency can be worth playing up for. The case against Jefferson would be that he's playing with an inexperienced quarterback this year in J.J. McCarthy, right? If both Jordan Addison and T.J. Hockenson are also on the field, there's a lot of mouths to be fed. Aaron Jones, T.J., Jordan Addison. I get it. But it's Justin Jefferson, guys. Justin Jefferson, the consistency is there. I understand the concern about J.J. McCarthy, but I'm not as concerned about J.J. McCarthy as most are. Okay? Next guy we're going to talk about, last guy we're going to talk about, Bijan Robinson. Okay? This is who I do think will be the running back 1. If I had to put money on it, this would be the guy. Okay? Yes, I love Saquon, but the tush push still being there, it takes away, right? As Down South just said, the tush push being banned would have changed everything for Saquon's fantasy, right? And once it does get banned, probably next year, it is going to change Saquon's fantasy because he will be getting those goal line touches. Sometimes rather than going off who scored the most last year, it's like Saquon, right? It can pay off to take a more forward-thinking approach. Bijan Robinson ranked 3rd among running backs in rushing yards and scored only 2 fewer touchdowns than Cook and Henry, who led all backs with 16 scores last fantasy season. So he was 1 behind Saquon at 14. Robinson also ranked 1st out of 46 running backs in the lowest proportions of his runs being stuffed at the line of scrimmage. So he doesn't get stuffed at the line of scrimmage. That's what that's saying. In the receiving game, Robinson trailed only Jahmyr Gibbs with 58 receptions. That is important. As I've talked about in the PPR leagues, you get a point for a reception, guys. So Bijan Robinson finished the season with an extra 58 points by just catching balls. Those are huge numbers. He scores touchdowns, accumulates a lot of yards, and earns targets. It's really what the recipe you want to in a potential overall for the number 1. Okay? It's just a recipe for what it is. Earns the targets, accumulates a lot of yards. The touchdowns will come. If I had to put money on it, Bijan Robinson would be my running back 1. I wrote down some information about roster constructions to consider, really. Okay, when owning this pick, there's some considerations to really have. It largely comes down to how you start your draft for how you want to proceed, okay? If you take a Jahmyr Chase, then there will still be top running backs available when the draft board makes it back to you. You'll have access to the top-end quarterbacks and tight ends. Now, if you go running back to start the draft, the wide receivers who make it back are a little less appealing, with Tyreek Hill and Garrett Wilson both bringing big question marks. Because of this lean is to go with receiver at 1.1, especially with specifically Jahmyr Chase. I think that you're going to get better value at wide receiver having drafted at 1 than you were to draft a running back and try to wait for a wide receiver. Does that make sense? So I would go wide receiver, then running back, instead of running back, then wide receiver. The value of those two swapped just doesn't make sense. So I would go wide receiver, running back as of this year. Okay. And so, guys, that's really going to be our lowdown. Having the number one overall pick, you really have to do the research yourself. But you have to realize that you are setting yourself up. Not only that, but you are controlling the rest of the field. If you go running back first, that second person's like, wow. So they already took a running back. Maybe I should think about a running back because, well, all the good ones might be gone. Or vice versa. If you go wide receiver and they're like, wow, I got to get my guy now, because he may not be there in the second round when I come pick up, right? There's other avenues to how to approach this, right? But you have to be the one to make that decision. My suggestion would be wide receiver, running back this year. However, as Down South just said, he used to go do running backs in the first two picks. You can also do that, guys. But in this instance, I don't think two wide receivers would be that bad of a choice. You're going to be able to get running back depth in the mid rounds this year. Caleb Johnson, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, James Cook. You're going to get these guys in the mid rounds. Maybe it's worth taking that stab to get those wide receivers in your quarterback, okay? Guys, I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate everybody that does. And I hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and I really do hope that these tips help you out. If you guys have any suggestions, what topics to talk about, maybe there's something that you guys have been itching to talk about or itching to learn, I am more than willing to answer any questions or any suggestions to the show. And just shoot me a DM on Facebook or Instagram, and that would be deeply appreciated, man. I appreciate everybody, and you guys have a good night.